So I'm hoping the snow is this weekend and not.
Get it over with.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, we have a guest this morning, it's Elena. Welcome, Elena. Good morning, Elena. And we may end up with Zoom guests. We'll see. There were a couple folks who expressed interest in joining us, so. All right, well, to kick off our meeting this morning, we're going to have a Rotary Minute from Jen Kennedy.
Good morning.
Morning.
And good morning, Zoom people. So I didn't delve quite as deeply into Rotary minutes as I wanted to before I prepared this, but I think I came up with something. It may seem counterintuitive to talk about this morning because we just came off such a wonderful Bill's Gift Story Slam event. It was both a community event and our club. We all know it's constantly involved in doing so much for our community. So what I'm talking about almost sounds like bringing coals to Newcastle or speaking to the choir. But I also know that all the time we're interested in growing our club and particularly in growing our membership. And so there was a letter in the most current issue of the Rotary magazine that just caught my eye because it sort of spoke to the same thing. So I'm going to read a bit from his letter. When I joined Rotary in 2006, we had approximately 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide. According to the latest official presentation on the state of membership, we have about the same number in 2023. But in every region except Asia, membership is decreasing. He goes on, I know membership in many civilizations is down, but perhaps one thing that Rotary could do to start growing again is to focus on local community projects. This is not to demean the great work that Rotary is doing around the world and Polio Now and Rotary's myriad of international humanitarian projects have improved lives of millions. I think promoting local projects, however, where potential members can more clearly see the results of their efforts is a better way to recruit members. And he adds, people are more likely to join an organization when they can see how directly it impacts their lives and their communities. And he does add that maybe the Rotary magazine itself could help by highlighting what some clubs are doing around the world. And I think Chris DiBiasio just sent in an article about our Rotary. So now we all know that we do engage in numerous community projects and activities throughout the year. We get an A+ on that. But reading that, however, made me realize that there is always room for discussion about being more intentional and how maybe we could structure and tie any particular project to promoting new members. Not a call to do more projects, but to promote new membership, to see if perhaps, just perhaps, we could find an opportunities for membership growth in everything that we do. Thank you. That's my Rotary thought for the day.
Thank you, Jen. And now Barbara Winter will offer our inspiration.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say kudos to Sherry and the wonderful team that worked with you to make these Bill's Gift Slam a fantastic success. And my inspiration speech today actually is a speech of hope. And it has to do with Ryla, and it has to do with one of the events that we do all the time. So I'm going to talk about that. If for those of you who are not familiar with what Ryla is anybody here not? That's good. See, we've done some education.
That's one person.
One person, yes. Okay, great. RILA is the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, and it's an intensive leadership experience which is organized by all Rotary clubs and districts where kids develop their skills as leaders while having fun and making connections. So the story I'm going to tell deals with a student I worked with in 2019. In my past life, I was an educational consultant. Before that, I was a school psychologist. And I was working with this young woman who was a sophomore in high school. She was a solid student. She wasn't exceptional. But she was interested in bettering herself, so to speak. And we talked about RILA as this opportunity to learn some leadership skills. She was a little hesitant about applying. She finally made her decision the 11th hour. Her mother actually came to the club and dropped off her application because she had forgotten to bring it to school that morning. Well, that year she happened to be one of the kids interviewed and chosen, which was wonderful. And that goes along with what Bill Skiff has told us about, that we don't, when we are interviewing these young people, it's best to choose someone who has skills that haven't yet been developed, rather than the obvious leader who comes sashaying in and you know that the kid doesn't really need RILA, supposedly. So I was really pleased that Julia had been chosen. That year she was chosen with Hannah and Charlie. And this is what she said to me when she finished the experience. She said, RILA was the time of my life. She said, I had so much fun and I'm grateful both for the program and experiences and for all the friends I made. Move forward to 2024. I belong to LinkedIn and I see a little notice from Julia on LinkedIn that was connected to me because I was one of the people who was connected to her. And I find out that she has become, for the last 2 years, she was very active in the Greek Society and was both the director of programming last year and this year. She was the president of the whole Pan-Hellenic Association.
Where?
This
Where
was
did she go
over
to
at the
school?
University of Denver,
Okay.
and she was just accepted to graduate school. And I view this whole experience for her as a tremendous success. So we see what RILA can do for all of our students. And Elizabeth is heading up RILA again this year. And hopefully some people will join your team in terms of interviewing students, and we'll get more Julias, which we've had over the years. So that is my inspiration for today.
Thank you, Barb. It does seem that many of our Rotary minutes are inspirations and many of our inspirations are Rotary minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a few announcements. First off, just acknowledging, of course, the wonderful event we had Saturday, the Bill Skiff Story Slam, and what a success it was. I know many of us were sweating all the details and wondering, would people come? Would people tell stories? And everything went so beautifully. And I think everyone who came had a really nice and meaningful time. So thank you to everybody. And of course, to Sherry for bringing this idea to us and getting it all organized. So thank you so much. And to so many of you who contributed in big ways. Just a reminder, as I wrote online, do submit any receipts that you may have. We're hoping to get a final accounting pretty soon to know how much we netted from the event, but I'm confident it'll be over $2,000. And so that's a great return on our efforts. So we'll let you know how that balances out. A question, we had a float at last 4th of July, and there were some banners that we had made to go onto that float, and we can't seem to find them. So I'm wondering, just putting the word out, if anyone knows where they are. I think there were 2 on the side, which I don't remember what they said, and then in the back we had a create hope in the world, this year's Rotary presidential theme that was on the back. There were vinyl banners, so hopefully someone has stowed them in some safe place and forgotten about it and can locate those. And then Andy, oh yes, did you have a quick?
Oh, just a quick announcement. So, on the heels of our very successful event, our next event is the Easter Parade and Egg Hunt. It'll be the end of March. I've asked Susan to send out a little short survey. If you participated, kind of, what do you think we do well? And other thoughts or ideas that we could consider, for this year or in the future. So look for a very short little, survey again. You had her hand up. Oh.
Quick, I got a very nice donation in our mailbox from Maple Tree Books, DBA Phoenix Books, but the check is unsigned. They accepted it. I didn't call them.
I'll sign it.
It's just someone-
I'll take responsibility, not for signing it, but I will get it.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I did leave them a message, but I haven't heard back and it's been like a week, so I appreciate that. I can drive up there. It's one thing to say.
So Phoenix Books was one of the sponsors of the event and they gave a nice donation. So, are there any other announcements before we turn things over to the wonderful guest speaker? All right, Howard, why don't you introduce our speaker?
Good morning. So our guest speaker this morning is none other than Nancy Stone. And Nancy is the wife of Ken Stone, one of our esteemed members who we haven't seen for a little while.
And a past president.
Past president, a Paul Harris fellow. And yeah, we're pretty convinced that was the case. And Ken's just always been an all-around good guy in this club and we miss him. So,
Bill is.
yeah, I know he is. You say that all the time. He makes me laugh. Nancy will be reading poetry and sharing artwork that appear in her recently published book, Indigo Hours, Healing Haiku. Her metaphors found in nature offer solace for others, offering glimmers of gratitude and courage for moving forward with love in your heart during challenging times. And I think it'll speak to something in all of our hearts. So thank you for being here.
Howard. Good to be here. Many of you are friends. So some of you knew Ken and some of you didn't know Ken. So I have two Rotary photographs. One, he was from Uncle Sam in the 4th of July parade. And then this is when he had his brick at the Memorial Day. So I'm just gonna put those out. And just with words, Ken was Scoutmaster. He was just active in the community. Member of the select board. He designed and engineered the recreation path. When I say you did that, he said, "Oh, that was a long time ago." He was president of Rotary, and one thing I most remember is him rolling out of bed very early to come and set up all the tables and chairs for you. So that was his really big commitment to Rotary. This is sort of a budget TED Talk, so I have, sorry, Ted. Rather than trying to figure out how to show imagery, when I go to different places, I just made posters of the artwork. So they're gonna go up here. 9 years ago, around our 50th wedding anniversary, I was noticing changing behavior in my husband, Ken. After having his memory tested, it was discovered that he had mild cognitive impairment, likely Alzheimer's disease. I was learning its nicknames, Long Journey or The Long Goodbye. Those are just too tame. It's actually a roller coaster ride. With twists and turns and peaks and valleys. That's our theme today, even though you may wish I'd slow down. You can do that with a book in a quiet place.
I need to have us plunge down with the ride with fears and tears and screams and laughter, not all of which I'll be doing today, but they're in the book. Our slow climb up the track will begin as background information. First, journaling. When fear and anxiety woke me in the middle of the night, I jotted down observations as a way to empty my mind. And I could use those for documentation for the doctor, and that was really helpful. I began to read poems by Mary Oliver, and I still do, even this week, because they bring me peace. After a while, for some reason, out of the blue, I started writing haiku. I hadn't done that since elementary school. Traditional haiku has 3 lines. The first line is 5 syllables, and then second is 7 syllables, and then 5 syllables. So here's my example. Seeking a playmate, my muse wakes me at midnight. We frolic for hours. My method is to turn on a little light and use as many Post-it notes as necessary until I find the best words. And sometimes it would be 30 Post-it notes. Until I reach the 17 syllables. So this is a little handmade book that was empty, and I decided to use the Post-its in here. Let's see. Journaling is one way for caregivers to find respite from feeling overwhelmed. You just need paper, pen, or pencil. You can do it anywhere except driving, I've learned. Raw emotions can be unloaded without filtering for another person. It's empowering, and it actually brings insight. Because you're thinking, what is the word? Oh. 2 years ago, there were 200 poems. I decided to illustrate some so I could enter an art show put on the Book Arts Guild of Vermont. I discovered a new kind of scratchboard because I was an art teacher. But usually it's black ink on paper coated with white clay. This is black ink on stiff plastic. And you can then place things under it, including poems. So that was a breakthrough. And this is, I co-founded the Book Arts Guild of Vermont. So it's can be any kind of thing. Some people are into calligraphy, some people are into stitching bindery, but I just have fun with my artwork. Yeah. So the book itself has some of the art and some of the poetry. Now, last year I had 350 haiku poems. When I shared them with friends, they insisted that I publish a book for other caregivers. At first, I was reluctant. I wrote them to help for me, and they were pretty raw. Some of them cry even. But I'm always inspired by Mary Oliver's poem, A Summer's Day. She asks, what will you do with your wild and precious life? So mine felt like it was getting lost in caregiving. And I found the courage to show my poetry and art to Rootstock Publishing in Montpelier. And I was signed up as an author. I'm an artist. This is still a huge surprise, especially since it was published the same year that I turned 80. The book's cover has an hourglass that was done in scratchboard. It was placed over a watercolor painting using indigo pigment. And that was the metaphor for me of the dark hours of the night when all of this happened. The stars were created by sprinkling salt into the wet pigment, and then they do. And someone said, you know, that looks a lot like the brain synapses. So it was kind of interesting that way. The question marks in the beginning were all the same, and I went, wait a minute. There's so many different questions, so I had to design some of the question marks. The book's subtitle is Healing Haiku. I don't know if the National Health CDC would say, you've got to prove that, but it is being proved. It's been a healing balm for me, and people are telling me that they find solace in the haiku, even though they have no experience with caregiving. or with Alzheimer's. However, friends often send books to people who are struggling with especially caregiving and sadness. And the responses are so heartwarming. I'm starting to have a document of that. Mary Oliver wrote in one of her poems, "We each wear a shadow." The poetry covers 5 years. It's been 9 years, but it's 5 years. You'll notice my change in attitude and acceptance. So we're now ready to go down that roller coaster. Year 1. Waiting mindfulness in the calm before the storm, purgatory pause. Eyes shut, living in the bubble of not knowing until the ears hear. The hour has arrived. After fear, stress, lost sleep, CAT scan results come. Dread appears, brain change. Panicky, attackity. Need a new game plan. Entering the dense woods or the shadowed future begins with one step. Radiologist points us down the primrose path, heading into fog. Our Ben and Jerry's pity party lasted till the pint was empty. So this takes a little time, but it gives you time to reflect on the poetry. This came out of another health scare on top of Alzheimer's for Kim. What? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Wait, what? No? Oh well. Through grieving, I learned sadness is not depression. Laughing is not wrong. Who, what, where, when, why? Contemplating the future drives me batty now. Still does. Year 2. Melancholy waves flow in strong and linger long, emotional tides. People ask whether his memory loss is fast. How slow is nightfall? When things get tougher and you are beside yourself, remember to breathe. I guess we are entering year 2. I lost that. This is from year 3. I understand at last that pleasure and pain in life are the yin and yang. This happened at the hospital. He runs in, I'm left. My panic and he ascend. Wrong elevator. Find missing husband, baseball cap, white hair, glasses, chocolate addict. Traumatic event breaks daily monotony with anxiety. This one took about 2 weeks to find the correct emotions. And no matter what stage we're at, this still holds true. Placid days, calm seas, clandestine tidal movement, ruthless undertow. Year 4. Not liking loose ends, I now feel normal being all tied up in knots. As an artist, I found that the zipper was a good symbol for this. It's hard trying to both hold it together and watch it fall apart. Caregiving involves more than tending the body. Dance with the spirit. Year 5. Vague thoughts at midday. Clarity is sharpened on midnight's whetstone. This one took a long time too. It's titled Train. Bypassing signals, the whistle wails plaintively. Please stop this train now. But time hurtles forth over trestles of loss through tunnels in the brain. Flickering windows reflect precious glimpses of shared memory. Life's receding ties, diminishing with a whoosh. Soft echoes remain. Grandma told me girls aren't archaeologists. I love words like the archaeologist. Grandma told me that girls aren't archaeologists. Not true nowadays. I'm excavating cupboards for lost spoons, pans, and dirty dishes. An earnest helper, he forgets where things belong. I search and unearth. And this was written last spring before he entered memory care. I was very content being in my art studio downstairs, knowing he was very content upstairs doing jigsaw puzzle, and he's still doing them. Standing at an island in the kitchen, not moving, which developed into edema. After I'd sent all of my poetry and artwork to the publisher, my muse was still working with me. She's not so much now because I'm sleeping better. Anyway, I sent this to her just because I thought she might enjoy it, and she put it in the book as an epilogue. Tight compression socks, frustrating and aggravating to pull on and off. We shout, I slam door. He whispers, I'm sorry for whatever I did. Within just minutes, he forgot what happened. It took me more time. He gently teaches how to live in the moment. I'm slowly learning. So that's it for the poetry. I just wanted to have you an update on what's going on. Okay, I do have it. Okay. Last June, Ken moved into Maple Ridge Memory Care in Essex Junction. At that point, he was telling people that his wife had died 2 or 3 years ago. Well, who are you living with? My sister Nancy, or my daughter Nancy. So when I told that story to one of the staff members, she said, just call yourself his mistress. And I realized it's just a label, and I'm not going to worry about that. You have to just accept some things. After being there for 1 month, out of the blue, he looked up from his chair and he said, this was the right decision. I was like, he's well cared for there, and I'm sleeping better, starting to paint again. The poetry is slowed, but this one came last fall. As we walk along, he chuckles and waves to us. Shadows holding hands. Somebody's cracking up. I had no intention of selling books today because I just felt most of you have to get to work, but our town library has a copy. It can be also purchased at Phoenix Books, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble. And I also have copies at home, and I brought some today because I was told to. You can pay for it today if you're to rush out. I have some envelopes someplace. I'll put on each table. I just need your name and the number of books you want. People are buying several to send them to friends because it's really, really helpful. And I will deliver those next week, so you have them before the meeting. $5 of each purchase from today will be donated to honor Ken on his 82nd birthday, which is today.
Oh,
When our journey began 9 years ago, there was stigma attached to Alzheimer's. I have time to tell a story.
sure.
Out of the blue, the next morning after the diagnosis, I said, come here a minute. And I had a bowl with water in it. I put a stone in the bottom. I pushed my hand on the top of the water and I said, this is us under pressure to keep it secret. Took the stone out, dropped it into the water, and it made rings. And I said, this is the support we will get. So I think he was open even at Rotary about what was going on. And it meant, I think it was good. And we told family and friends. Vermont Alzheimer's office is in Williston. There are ads on TV. 7 Days had an article last week about it. And there's a support group for caregivers that we meet twice a month at the library here in Williston. This is a worldwide epidemic, but the research is also worldwide, with research that keeps having new breakthroughs every month. I'd need another meeting to tell you what I've seen, but it keeps happening, so it's very exciting. Our country has 6.5 million cases this year. This is what the Alzheimer's Association says. 1 in 9 people over 65 have dementia. Next year, it's predicted that Vermont will have 17,000 cases. Family members are the unpaid caregivers. So there's time for questions, and then I have early haiku that still resonates with me that I think you'll like. So do you have any questions? Chris?
I have a comment. I didn't mean to interrupt the clapping. I have a photograph of Ken Stone when I first joined Rotary. And it's in the northeast of Burlington. We're building a ramp. And Ken is still, I haven't seen him in a while, but it's near and dear to me. I really like him. And I like you too.
Same for both of us. And Ken is still here. All right, I do have time for 2 stories. 2 weeks ago, he looked at me and said, so where do you live now? And I said, I'm in Williston, 12 minutes from here. He said, oh, could you walk that? Well, he hiked the whole Appalachian Trail. But if you ask him, or he asks you, do you know where I hiked? Every trail all over the world. I said, no, that would take me too many hours or days. And he said, maybe I could. Which he could not. But 2 days later, he said, are you married? Oh, so I said, yes, you gave me this ring. I'm your wife. And he said, oh, I wish we could be together again. And that threw me. And I said, we will be in heaven. And he said, in heaven? So he's still, a fun person. The nurses really like him. Sorry.
Yes, Ken used to regale us on his walk through the Appalachian Trail. And we would always look forward to his stories and what he experienced. And yeah.
Yeah, I have 4 loose leaf notebooks. It takes up this much shelf space in notes and photographs.
I wondered what kind of changes early on that you noticed.
One was road rage.
Mhm.
And so I documented all of that and made a copy and sent it to our primary care. She sent him for the test. They did the wrong thing at the test, road test. She said, you're a good driver, but you're an accident waiting to happen. He did not hear the last part. He wanted to sue the state of Vermont. I said, I will support you in every way, but not this. And so now he enjoys looking out the window and says, oh, There's some trees down. Oh, there's some trees down.
And that was when you brought him in, you were hoping to have him give back his license, so to speak.
I brought him in to get rid of the license.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has an ID now. He was so angry, but it took about 1.5 years.
I mean, one of the things I noticed when he was still coming to Rotary, that here was this wonderful gentleman that you could sit next to and chat with, and he became very quiet or short with his answers, and he,
Really?
yeah. And I thought I had done something to offend him.
Yeah, and then, of course, searching for things throughout the house. He didn't wander, but he did get lost twice because we moved into a new, easily maintainable neighborhood. He never wanted to move from our big house in 21 acres. And I thought, big house, 21 acres and Alzheimer's, I can't do. So one day he looked very tired from all the work. I said, "Are you okay?" I think it's time. So the next day I got the realtor.
You had a home share situation for a while.
He moved with us
Mm-hmm.
and I'm on my 3rd person now. And it's wonderful. It makes me feel safer because if I fell or something, you know, I'm not falling. It's just a really good situation. Any other- oh,
Couple things. First, as Pastor is privileged to hear some of these poems before they were published. But I'll even take credit as being one of those who may have encouraged you to publish them.
Yeah, probably.
And what a blessing, what a profound blessing. I also want to take a moment to offer this promotion. So for limited time only, some Nancy's additional artwork is on display in this very building. Now and Easter, if you just go upstairs, you don't even have to go all the way to the sanctuary. In the hall, in the gallery space that's outside the sanctuary, there are 4 of Nancy's beautiful scrolls. You really should see them before you leave today or before you leave some Thursday during Lent. A spectacular artwork. We're blessed to have this treasure in our community. I want you to have that opportunity to see
I
some
should
more.
explain where it came from. I decided to be the artist in residence for Lyric Theater when they were doing Jesus Christ Superstar. So I would go to the rehearsals and saw the townspeople becoming the actors. And then they put on the costumes and they became the characters. So I kind of wanted to have, that was when the Flynn was in the olden days. Downstairs, we had the exhibit. And I made large scrolls of the 4 important people in the story of Easter and their point of decision. So that's what that's for. This is the book. I don't think I showed it to you. So it has maybe 100 poems and more artwork. A picture can be a lovely surface.
Nancy, as a caregiver of someone who has dementia, that book is so incredibly touching and so meaningful. So
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
thank you for speaking with us today.
Sometimes when people send the book to people in need, those people write me directly and tell me the whole story. That's the other thing that's been happening. When I'm at a craft fair or here at the Christmas Bazaar and selling the book, it's so meaningful when they come up and they just want me to listen to their story. And it takes time, but it makes me have something beyond the worry of the Alzheimer's that we're dealing with.
You know, as you said earlier, you know, there's been a lot of skepticism around dementia, and people need to be able to tell their stories just as much as people whose loved ones have died need to be able to share their stories.
Yeah.
And our cultures
Yeah,
slowly
yeah.
coming back to that, I hope.
Well, I attend the monthly meetings. Action group. And they're going down to Montpelier every week. And I'm not gonna do that. I have canons and that, but my book is a way of outreach for people to understand what's going on. So I didn't explain what Alzheimer's is. You can look that up, but probably most of you know. So, yes.
Just
Not really a question, more just a comment for you. It's a really human experience you're going through, and I just want to say I really appreciate the kind of caregiver that you seem to be. And you're benefiting Ken, you're benefiting yourself, helping your journey, and you're helping us in the way that Leslie's talking about. You're bringing it to a community, you're bringing it to the people around us, around you, and it's making it more okay to go.
Yeah, and it's not just Alzheimer's, it's caregiving for so many things.
Not always a city.
No. I can't look at you with your tear.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. It's very touching. Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, yes.
As I'm a certified dementia practitioner, or
Oh.
at least I was, I guess I have to sort of pay my dues and but I just think that oftentimes the professionals get way more credit than the family members that are living with the people that are having various medical issues, and in this case, Alzheimer's or dementia. And I always really turn back to the primary caregivers, and I look to them for knowledge to take to other families, because you guys, you're living it. You know, we're just reading books and watching it happen to other families. Like, I have not lived with anybody with Alzheimer's, but I've had the good fortune of knowing a lot of families because of my profession. But thank you.
Well, the Alzheimer's advocacy group is asking for some more money to help the caregivers, but the
Yeah.
state's money situation. But one thing they are doing is, and I think it'll pass easily, having a program where primary care physicians understand dementia to help them outreach. That's exactly what you're saying, and it's not always happening now, so that's what they want to have part of the program. So, thank you for
Thank
saying
you.
that. Okay. Well, I can finish here with my last haiku. Despite all the times, I'm gonna cry again. Despite all the times of exasperation, fear, exhaustion, and stress, I recognize that this day could be the best day of our yesterdays. So, thank you.
For coming, Nancy, and we miss Ken a lot. I think you would be good enough to tell him a bunch of times, so maybe he remembers. I think you may know, for being our guest speaker, our club gives a donation to the Williston Schools mentoring program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And, wish Stan a very happy